Sending the articles for impeachment over to the Senate. We're going to have a Senate trial. And yet I can't figure out if, in fact, the president wants witnesses or doesn't want witnesses. What is this going to look like? Why is it that this freedom, this democracy, this movement in the economic growth story is not resonating on his critics?
Well, listen, they're not. This is why they oppose him. The established order, first off, they hate him personally, but more, it's importantly, they oppose his America First policies, because his America First policies are resonating. Freedom and capitalism are resonating around the world, and that's what they oppose. And this is why he's continued to push this forward. Remember, when they put these articles of impeachment up, what they want to do is basically Bigfoot everything he's doing. They want to have, and this is, I think, the problem Mitch McConnell has, is that they see this kind of trial as being on C-SPAN, right, with some very tight legal arguments. I think President Trump, and the reason on Laura Ingraham the other night, he called for an expanded witness list, was he understands that the jury is not the Senate. The jury is the American people, but the audience is the world. They're watching on the streets of Taipei. They're watching in Hong Kong. They're watching in Tehran. They're watching and see if the established order can back down Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has the ability to win here. And that's why I've been calling it the trial of the century. He calls it the crime of the century. It is the crime of the century. It should be treated like that. And that's why on Laura Ingraham, he walked through the witnesses he wants. I think those witnesses have to be called.
The crime of the century, meaning that this was a coup. Kevin McCarthy was on several times over the last year, who called it the worst coup that we've seen ever in our history of our country. That's why the president called for these witnesses. Let's listen to the president on Laura Ingraham the other night in that great interview. Watch.
I'd like a trial, and I'd love to have Sleepy Joe Biden. I'd love to have his son. I call him Where's Hunter. I've changed his first name to Where's Hunter. I'd love to have the whistleblower who wrote a fake report.
Will we get there? Will we actually get all those people to testify? Because that will expose the crime of the century.
If they're making a big deal on the Democratic side, and some of these moderate senators are starting to call, they want Bolton and Mulvaney and the emails and vote at OMB, bring them. What do they have to show? Donald Trump did nothing wrong. This is why it's just like his support of the freedom movements throughout the world. And yesterday he tweets out in Farsi to support the people in the streets of Tehran. The established order were appeasers. They appeased the Chinese Communist Party. They appeased the mullahs. He stood up to that. And he showed you in the crime of the century, we should have the whistleblower up. We should have Hunter Biden up. And we should have the gentleman Horowitz who wrote the IG report. We should have those people up there. They should testify. If you have to trade off by having John Bolton and Mick Mulvaney, who cares? What are they going to say? Right? What President Trump said at the very beginning of this, when we started our podcast, unity and substance. I did nothing wrong. This call was perfect. And I think the facts bear him out. It's one of the reasons, two reasons Nancy Pelosi slow-walked this. One was to find more evidence, okay, because they didn't have it. And they're afraid the guns are going to be turned back on them for a weak case. The second was to make sure she could Bigfoot President Trump's State of the Union message. That's why she slow-walked this entire thing. President Trump understands that the jury is the American people. The audience is the world. The world is watching this. That's why he has to take a hard stand, I believe.
So you want him to delay the State of the Union. I got to ask you about that, because you are asking him, calling for him to make this announcement tomorrow morning. Let's take a short break. We've got a lot more with Steve Bannon.